In this lesson, we're going to investigate how to physically measure an angle. And before we do that, I want to kind of allude or point out something we talked about in another lesson, which is that two angles that add up to 90 degrees we call complementary, and two angles that add up to 180 degrees we call supplementary. So keep that in mind as we move forward with this lesson. Excuse me. To measure in degrees, we use a protractor. Here is a protractor. We're going to be using this from time to time to measure the angle. Okay, and just so you know, it's important which side of this you use, so be careful about that. So, a protractor has two angle measures for each notch. The angle you choose depends on the starting point. For this particular protractor, I'm not sure if they're all the same. If this was our starting point, we would use the top, these top values, okay? So for example, this angle right here would be 30 degrees, not 150. Now if this was our starting point for this protractor, we would use the bottom values. So for example, again, this angle would be 30, formed by this point, not 150. So be careful about which values you use. It's pretty obvious though, we've already talked about acute and obtuse angles. An acute angle is less than 90, so obviously these angles make sense for the bottom to the right, and then these angles make sense for the top if you're using the left. Okay, so I want to point out a couple things. Sometimes you do end up between 2 degrees. Whole degrees, you can use a half degree. When in between whole angles, use a decimal. So for example, if you're between 137 and 136, use 136.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and introduce you to a few more terms other than complementary and supplementary. An exterior angle is an angle that's on the outside of an angle. It's larger than 180 degrees. Okay, so an interior angle is smaller than 180. It looks like a regular angle. The exterior is this green right here. It's the outside. It's bigger than 180. And again, the interior is, don't know what just happened here. I think I went down too far. The interior is this red angle right here, and it's smaller than 180. So interior smaller than 180, exterior larger than 180, bigger than the line. Alright, so what is the measure of this angle? Okay, I've already got it written out here because I've done this lesson with my students before. I'm going to pull up the tool real quick and show you how to do this. Alright, so here we have the protractor, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set the protractor so that it is right on, so the crosshairs are right on the vertex of the point. Okay, so in other words, crosshairs need to be right here. Alright, then the next thing you're going to do is go up to your protractor and figure out what that value, what that notch is. And so remember, you're using the bottom notches here because we started to the right, and it makes sense because this is a acute angle. It's less than 90. If we go up to that notch right there, it's right before 65. It must be 64 degrees. So just make sure that the vertex of your angle is on the crosshairs of your protractor. If you put it down here at the bottom, it won't work, right? You'd get a different angle back. It'd be slightly off. So it needs to be on the crosshairs of the protractor in order for it to work out. In this case, we get 64. Next example, again, we're going to take our protractor, the crosshairs, and put it directly on our angle. So it should be about right here. Right, and might not get it perfect. And then if we then look at our angle, again, we're starting on the right here. Okay, this is our full angle. We're using the bottom values. It makes sense because it's an obtuse angle. We get 140, which is going to be the measure of our angle. Measuring a few more. Well, if we're going to put our crosshairs anywhere we want, but the protractor is going to clearly give us an accurate reading of 180. Okay, it's going to be a straight line. So you can use a protractor to measure a straight line. The last one I want you to see is sometimes you have to find an exterior angle. And so what you do is you first find the measure of the interior angle. So to do that, we're going to put our crosshairs right on the vertex of the angle. If we go up, we see that the interior angle is going to be about 58. To figure out the exterior angle, you subtract that from 360, because if you add the interior and the if you add this interior angle and this exterior angle, that adds up to 360 degrees. Okay, here's the interior angle, by the way. Whoops, it's not letting me draw it on there. Okay, but you get the point. Okay, the protractor moved. Let's move this real quick. Okay, so if you add that up, that gives you 360. So we're going to take 360, we're going to subtract 58, this angle right here, and that gives us 302 degrees, which is our exterior angle. So that's it for using a protractor. Again, if you take the exterior angle and you subtract the interior, if you subtract the interior angle from 360, that will give you the exterior angle, which is 302. Make sure you put your protractor on the vertex. Make sure that you're reading the right line on the protractor. If you have any other questions about complementary, supplementary, exterior, interior, or using a protractor, let me know.